What we're going over today is the ability of being able to use milk paints, pigments, micas to be able to create these beautiful finishes. So I want to be able to show you, as far as the finish that we just did. Now, can you see? Look at the depth. Look at the depth. As far as with this particular finish, and a lot of people don't think this way. They paint something and they think, I'm just going to come back on top of it with the Mind Your Own Beeswax or the light antique wax. What I want you to realize that you can take your Mind Your Own Beeswax, mix it with the milk paint, mix it with a pigment, or you can mix it with the one step and stay monochromatic. This monochromatic finish, by staying with the wax that is just a little bit darker than your original color that you painted it. So I painted this with Central Park, and then I came back and I used Party in the Grove in my wax, and then I came back and I put, after my wax with this had dried and was still just a little to tack, I came in and I added the milk paint back in the crevices, and look at the difference. It will give you all the depth that you could ever want. All right, so now that you can see me a little clearer, let's do our next one. And again, remember, this is why a lot of people, when they call in and they'll say, Amy, I didn't know the one step was a matte finish. This is the reason. The one step is, it does not have to be sealed, but the part of the reason why I created a very matte finish is it allows you all this versatility to be able to use the product. So now I want to be able to show you this one. Look at this. This was not used with Dust of Ages. This, I used milk paint to create the depth to the finish. So here's the before. Here's the before, just plain black one step. But then look at this. This takes it to a whole new level. Before, after. Before, after. So, and I'm going to be showing you, I'll go on and show you now. I'm going to show you in just a minute. You don't have to have all the embellishments. If you have a plain piece, this is done in a debutante. It's kind of a pale pink. Did y'all hear the news? I'm going to be posting it later on my Amy Howard Official. If you don't follow me on Instagram, do that with Amy Howard Official. But Jean Howard and I are going to be grandparents to a little girl. Our son Preston and our daughter-in-law Lee, we thought that we were going to have a boy. And we found out last night it's a little girl. So everything's going to be pink. I'm driving to work this morning, coming to the studio thinking, I know some art that I'm going to make and frame to be able to put in that little girl's room. All right, so thank you, Kim. So it doesn't have to be a real carved surface for the wax to show up. Here's an example. I came back, look at the subtlety of this and the depth that I can get. When I have a pink or kind of the debutante milk paint finish like this, I will use a gray wax on top of it. And it is a beautiful, beautiful finish. Look at the before and after. Makes a huge difference, makes it a lot warmer, pretty, and it gives it a lot of depth. All right, so now I'm going to turn my camera down again. And it's great. I'm so glad, Robin. That blesses me. Thank y'all. I just love y'all to death. This is why I do this. So I'm going to go on and turn this down because we got some more work to do. All right, so bear with me. I want to make sure that you can see me. If you can get me something so that way I can see, that would be awesome. All right, so now I want you to see, this is the before and this is the after. This is the black one step, just the plain black one step. See how it's a very matte finish. And now I'm going to come back on top of it with none other than, I've got my, hold on just a second, guys. I got a little messed up. All right, I'm going to come back on top of it with Scandinavian Gray. Now, the Scandinavian Gray, this is actually pigment powder. This is not milk paint. So you can use pigments. These are straight pigments. This is what we actually use in the process of making the milk paint. You can use pigment, milk paint, and mica. A lot of times people don't realize with the micas, if you want to mix the pigment and the mica together, you can get just a little bit of an iridescent wax to be able to put on top of your piece. So the mixing process I usually do when I'm mixing the dry. So I'm going to go on. I've got this already mixed up. But I'll go on and do that for you so that way you can see it. And I'm going to put just a little bit of this pigment powder in here. Now, again, I want you to see the color that it looks before I start mixing. And I want you to see how the color changes and how much darker it gets. Now, make sure you mix it up really good. So then it's going to go to this color. I'm telling you, this is going to change the way you look at furniture, the way you look at your antiques that you're replicating, even the finishes. Maybe these are picture frames that you're doing. It can change all of it. All right, so now I'm going to take my brush. Again, because we kind of got cut off, you can clean your brushes with Clean Slate. That will get the wax out of here, but you can also clean them with mineral spirits and make sure that if you're working on a project and you don't want to clean out your wax brushes every time, I get just a little Ziploc bag or a sandwich bag and I put it in it, or you can take some saran wrap and wrap all the way around it, and it will keep the wax fresh. So you don't have to clean the brush out every time, especially if you're working with clear waxes or light antique wax. So I'm going to offload. I never go directly from the custom wax that I've made onto my piece. And I'm going to come all over this. I usually will start all the way around on my edges, pounce down into those crevices. Now look at the difference between this side where I really haven't done it and this one. There's not a whole lot of color difference, but you're going to see something in just a minute. Again, I have mixed up my pigment powder with my Mind Your Own Beeswax, creating a custom wax that's very, very subtle, and it's kind of this light gray. Now I'm going to come back like what I showed you a while ago. After I applied my darker wax, this was a monochromatic color that I had done, I came back in order to be able to get in the crevices and the details like this. There's a lot of detail in this one. I'm going to come back with my pigment. You can use straight pigment with the wax to get down into the crevices to create a beautiful finish. So now, in all honesty, I need this to come to tack, T-A-C-K, tack. And what that means is that when I touch this, and if it's still greasy, I don't need to put this pigment powder on there yet, because it's just going to have a tendency to go too dark. I need this to come, and you can get a hairdryer. Is there a way, can I have a hairdryer, T? You know, on a hairdryer, you can put it on a cool setting. A lot of times you just press that little button, and then that way it won't be hot heat. It'll be cool, and that will dry this wax, so that way I can go to the next step. So y'all are so sweet. You watch paint dry on here when I'm showing you. I'm going to show you how to be able to dry this. All right, here we go. Main thing what I'm wanting to do is I want to make sure that this wax isn't greasy, that it's not moving, and it's coming to tack. Cool air or a fan will speed up that process for you. All right, so now I'm much happier with how that feels. Perfect. So now I can come back. I'm going to use a dry brush. Never use a wax brush for this process. I want to make sure I get that pigment everywhere on my brush. If you want to, you could just sprinkle it on here because it's come to tack. Again, this is the same pigment I used to create my dark wax. So I'm creating monochromatic finishes, and now I'm going to come back and I'm putting this pigment down into my custom wax color using the same pigment. Oh my gosh, I am loving this so much. Love, love, love. Now I'm going to come back with a lint-free rag. And let's lightly buff it. I don't want it, now I wish you could feel, I mean, I am barely touching the tops of this because what I want is I want this to stay down in the crevices. This is part of the beauty. The whole idea is to not try to get this out. But I love the fact that I've got this really pretty light gray that's down in all of my crevices. It's so pretty. It gives so much depth and it really changes it. So that's why when a lot of people will say, oh, waxing is no big deal. Waxing is everything. Guys, waxes have been done on classic painted Italian furniture for hundreds and hundreds of years. It allows you to be able to get depth and a look and a beauty like you can't get on anything else. Now, I want to show you, a lot of times when you'll see furniture pieces, especially Italian painted pieces, and you'll see different colors down in there. Guess what? Can you see that? If I put that up there, do you see that red? All I did on this one is I came back and I used my red pigment powder in my wax, and then I came back on top of it with a little bit of Dust of Ages, and it allowed me to make it look like there's two colors that have been done on this paint. When in essence, all I did was painted this with my black Noor milk paint. I waxed it with a little bit of red. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna show you real quick. Do y'all love this? Tell me. I mean, I think it's fabulous. I love this beautiful gray pigment on this black. I think it's absolutely yummy. All right, so now I want to show you, it's a little scarier when you start going into colors. Here's something that I want you to remember. You don't need to go really drastic. T, can I have a cream over there? Like a cream, like a Bauhaus Buff. You don't want to mix up a really dark colored wax, even if it's a blue or a green or a red, and put it on top of Bauhaus Buff, a trim sample, because the contrast is going to be too different. We need to make sure that the values of what that we're working with are somewhat similar. Does everybody understand that? Again, as you pop on here, please say, hey, tell me where you're tuning in from. Take advantage of the code that we have for today, Furniture20, all lowercase, Furniture20, and you can get 20% off on the products that I'm showing you today. So this is what I wanted you to see. If you're painting a piece of furniture and it's Bauhaus Buff or it's Ballet White or if it's a lighter color, you don't want to go back in and start putting really bright color pigments on it. You don't even want to go into real dark grays or dark blues. It's going to be too contrasty. I could go to a pale gray or a real pale blue or a pale green, and it looks absolutely yummy. I'm going to show you how to do that on a pink in just a second. All right, so now I'm going to go on and I'm going to take this red, the Lagastuvian. I put just a little bit of Mind Your Own Beeswax into my container. It's the squeezable wax. I'm putting that into my container. Now, it doesn't take much. This is a very powerful pigment, and these pigments can be used for so many things. So I'm stirring this up. Again, if you want to be able to transfer this into a little glass or plastic Tupperware container, these colored waxes can be in your studio, and they're good for years, years and years and years. Look at that. So now I'm going to go on and I've painted this with black Noor milk paint. I'm going to take just a little bit of the red wax and I'm going to offload it onto my paper. It's really good if you can get cardboard. This paper is not very absorbent, but cardboard is absorbent, and it will allow you to be able to have just a little bit more control. So now I'm going to start. Just going to start on the edge. The other thing is I'm kind of doing a dry brushing effect with this. Look how very light I'm touching it. I'm not saturating it. I'm turning my wrist from side to side. Now, kind of like what we did before, I may use that hairdryer again just a second too. As we did before, I'm going to dry this with a cool, this is cool, this is not heat. And I'm going to come back, and I do very, very carefully. I'm going to add just a little bit of red pigment down in here, like this. I have to do that when the wax has not completely dried. That way it stays down into the wax. I'm going to dust that off. And then I'm going to come back with a little bit of Dust of Ages, because I want to be able to set back that red. That red is a very, very strong color. And then I'm going to buff it. Now, this one has completely dried. I did this right before we went live, and it allows you to be able to see that red, how it's peeking through. Can you see that? And how subtle it is. This is how you can really create very sophisticated European finishes that will look totally different. So thus far, look what we've done. You'll be able to make sure you can see those. Here's just another example. Now, last but not least, I want to show you on a pink. I painted this with Debutante, and I'm going to come back with a Scandinavian gray. Look at the colors. See how close they are in value? I would not go, I know we wouldn't do a blue together, but look at their light reflective value. I would not want to go that dark on top of this really pale color. So I'm going to keep it light. And I mixed this milk paint. I switched back and forth from milk paint to pigment. And this made my wax. So now, part of the reason why I wanted to show you this is because there's no embellishments, there's no carving, and a lot of people will say, well, my piece doesn't have that. Could you grab me some fresh steel wool? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go with the grain. If I don't have any carving, if I'm adding a custom colored wax on top of this, I'm going to go with the grain. Long, clean strokes like this. I'm going to do half of this because I want you to be able to see. That maybe on a color that you would have never thought about going with a color like Debutante, but you didn't know how beautiful it could be. I'm going to come back with some 4/0 steel wool, and I'm going to lightly kind of go back over this while that wax is still kind of wet. And what it does is it allows me to be able to have more control. Now I want you to see the finish. See the before and see the after. It's going to create a little bit of striation to it, but it's creating this really pretty soft color that you would have never thought that you could have gotten with working with kind of a rose pink color. So I'm going to come back on top of this just a little bit more. I could even let it set up just a little bit longer if I wanted to. Again, I'm going with the grain. I'm not going against it. I'm not going in circles. I'm going with the grain, and I'm coming back with 4/0 steel wool. And from left to right, just like I did my brush, I'm going to come back and soften it. And it's going to give me this really pretty, subtle finish. I love it. So waxes, you know, I probably need to go in and show you as far as the micas. We're almost finished. Stay with me. If you want to be able to create, let's say, oh, that's a good idea, T. Give me that, and I want to be able to show them. So I want to show you, and I can use the other side of this paper. I can take a little bit of silver metallic. Again, I could work this with a milk paint in a powder form. Let's say if I wanted to be able to come back with my Central Park. I can come back and add some silver mica to it. Look at this. And I will have a blue metallic wax. Look at that. Can you see? Look at that gorgeous blue metallic wax. So now I'm going to mix it up. I want you to be able to see. Did y'all know you could do that? Let's pop a little bit of wax in here. We've got gold metallics, we've got mother of pearl, we've got silver, we've got copper, bronze, now I want to be able to show you. I'm going to take just a little bit of this on my finger. Now look. The subtlety of it is absolutely gorgeous. So don't think about your colors having to just be the metallic, or you can mix the milk paint and the pigments with the metallics to give you these gorgeous rich colors. A really dark blue with silver or mother of pearl in it could be an amazing finish. Same thing with if you want to be able to come back and do your embellishments, just use the gold metallic wax. The gold metallic pigment with the Mind Your Own beeswax. And y'all know me, I can paint with my fingers. Actually prefer that sometimes. And I can come back if I want on top of this, and I want to be able to create some gold embellishments. Allow this to dry. Steel will it off. It'll make it look really natural. It'll look set back. I think the main thing that I want you to realize is that the ability to be able to customize your waxes with pigments, micas, milk paint, and be able to create these gorgeous finishes can make all the difference in the world. It's really quite transformative. So hopefully, with all the snafus, so many options. Isn't it great, Kim? So hopefully with the snafus that we had today, it didn't hurt your, didn't quail your interest. And, oh, Julie, if you only knew, we had internet issues earlier, but it's all good. It's just really where you can understand how great working with the One Step is, why it's a matte finish, because it allows you to be able to create so many beautiful custom wax finishes. Think of working in monochromatic color frames. Don't go too drastic. If you're in a green value, stay in your green values. If you're in blues, you can go into greens just a little bit. If you're painting at Bauhaus Buff, or if you've done it in milk paint, just try to keep those in similar monochromatic color families, and you're going to be incredibly impressed with what you create. So I hope today was helpful. I hope it raises your level of connoisseurship and keeps you really excited that crafting a beautiful life, there's nothing better, because it's a way that you really show your creativity that you were given as a God-given gift, to be able to make your home more inviting, more beautiful, and who knows, it might even be a business that you start. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love you guys. Thank you for blessing me. Have a great day, everybody, and a blessed weekend.